All I'm here to be doing is making sure I point out what I see here so that you know it's there. And again, the cap is a little bit different. Like this is what I would classify as a curl as opposed to a wavy wig. A lot of this is a matter of preference and opinion. And I'm gonna start right off with a little spin. I rush through these styles because I don't want to take up all your time, but you kind of get the idea. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Chiquel YouTube channel. My name is Amanda and today, as promised, I am coming at you with the 6 longer styles in Belle Tress's newer Icons collection. But before I jump into all of that, I'm going to remind you to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can learn even more about alternative hair. All right, so last week I did a big video on the 6 shorter styles from Belle Tress's newer Icons collection. In that video, I outlined the cap in very great detail and I showed all 6 of those shorter styles. Now today I will show the cap briefly at the beginning, but if you want more detail and more information on it, definitely go back and watch my video on the shorter Icon styles because that will break down the cap a lot. I just don't want to make you sit through it twice. So go check that out. I'll put the link below so that you can access it easily as well. Okay, so Belle Tress has come out with this new collection called the Icons collection. They already have their cafe collection, which they have updated the cap on that recently. They have their city collection. They have their Luxe collection, which is their hand-tied caps. Then they have their Luxe SE collection, which is their partially hand-tied caps. Now they have their Icons collection. And again, the cap is a little bit different. So like I said, I'll just briefly show it to you. So we have a full lace front on these Icons collection caps that go pretty much around your ear tabs, almost. They kind of dwindle off around the curve here, but they're basically an ear-to-ear lace front. We do have these silicone ear tabs. However, I was mentioning in the video before that they are removable. You can easily take a seam ripper and take off that stitching and it will just be more lace that you see with the metal stay. So if you're not into that, you can take it off, but I mean, they're kind of nice to have, especially if you want to add a little bit of extra adhesive there to stick it down. So that lace front goes all the way around the silicone ear tabs. Now this is where there's a bigger difference in the caps that everyone I think really needs to be aware of. This is not a monofilament top. This is actually more of a double layered hand tied top. So I can pull apart these 2 layers. It is not that lace-like monofilament material that you're used to on those typical monofilament tops. This is, like I said, more of a mesh tulle-like material where the fibers are tied on by hand more into clusters. And I go into more depth in this, of course, in the other video, but the difference with this is that you might be able to see your part line, the knotting in your part line a little bit more easily. And I'll show that to you on each of the wigs so that you can kind of get a better grasp at it and a better look at it. But it's not a monofilament top. It is a double layered hand-tied top with tulle mesh-like material here. We also have a partially hand-tied cap. So this part of the cap here is very similar to the Luxe SE cap where you have hand-tied on the top here. It is nice and stretchy all the way around. And then it goes into your your wefted portion at the bottom here. So this is a closed wefted cap at the bottom. And that means all of the fibers have been sewn on by a machine into rows, but we do have that similar material down here as we see on the rest of the cap. But overall, this is a stretchy cap. Even in the wefting, it is stretchy. Whereas on some other brands, most notably I find Raquel Welch, their partially hand-tied caps aren't so stretchy. These ones are. And then we have our velvet extended nape here with your Velcro adjusters. So here is a smaller breakdown of the cap, but go back to my old video, like I've already said 3 times, so you can see more detail about the cap. In that video, I also compare the Icons cap to the Luxe caps and to the Luxe SE caps, so you can really see the difference. Okay, let me start off with this first style here. So this one is Kennedy, and this is in the color Soft Amber Brown Rooted. It is definitely a deep, rich brunette with warmer, almost reddish auburn highlights throughout it. Now, I'm not gonna dive deep into the colors today because otherwise, again, this video is gonna be like 100 minutes long. So I'm gonna make a separate video that goes into depth about the colors in the Icons collection a bit more so that you can actually get to know them a bit better. All right, so here's Kennedy. Let me start off by doing a little spin for you. So Kennedy is obviously adorable. What you're gonna see on her is honestly not a ton of layering in this. There really is not a bunch of layering, maybe like an inch or two where the layers begin near the bottom. There isn't even huge layering in the front here. Layers in the front are there, they're a bit shorter than the rest of them. Like they start, you know, chin length-ish, but there's not a ton of them. And you will find that these curls curl away from your face, creating this nice little swooping effect here with those few layers in the front. So they curl away from your face, and these definitely are more of a bigger barreled curl. Like this is what I would classify as a curl as opposed to a wavy wig. Now in all of the Icons wigs, since they do have this hand-tied portion up here, you're not gonna find any permatease. Permatease is that short-haired crimping effect done at the root to give it that lift and volume, sometimes giving it a little bit more poofiness that not everybody loves, but on these Icons Collections caps, you're not gonna find any permatease up throughout the cap there. Kennedy, I find, is not as low of a density as a lot of Belle Tress's other wigs. It's more low to medium density, I would say. And of course, all of these curls in here are gonna give you that sort of natural volume that Kennedy has. Let me quickly pin her back and a little half up, half down so you can see that she is cute to style back. And of course, with this little layering in the front, it gives you a little bit of opportunity to play around with the front a bit and give you that natural look here. I don't know what it looks like back there. That was such a quick job I did. All right, on to the next one, which is Bradshaw. So Bradshaw here, you can see the curl pattern is a little bit different. These are a bit tighter, bigger barreled curls. These are a little bit more of a loose curl going on here. And of course the style is a bit longer. Now I have Bradshaw here in the color brown sugar blonde rooted, which is a very nice mix of sort of a warm light brown. There is a deeper brown in there as well. And then there's some cooler blonde mixed in too. So it is a nice brown blonde mix that does lean neutral to a little bit on the warmer side, but also cooled off, like I said, with those cooler blonde highlights. Okay, let me take off Kennedy here. And I will switch to Bradshaw. So just a reminder, all of these have the exact same cap, so I don't need to show it each time I put it on. So I will say that Bradshaw on my head is a little bit of a lighter density in my opinion than Kennedy was. Now you'll also find on Bradshaw that the curls are going away from your face, creating that sort of swooping bang effect like we saw on Kennedy. Now these are some layers here in the front. They are a bit longer, but there's a bit more of them on this style than there was on Kennedy. So there they are, just kind of easily blended into the rest of the style here. There's a little bit of layering on this, but again, not too much, nothing that starts up here. The layering starts closer to the last couple inches of hair there. Let me give you guys a little spin. And now on Bradshaw, let me pull her back into a claw for you so you can see what she looks like in an updo. I think she would make a really nice, glamorous updo. And remember, I do these really fast on here, so this just kind of gives you a little idea. So here you have that little swoopy effect at the front, which I love. That's what gives it all the glamour, in my opinion. Sorry, I don't know what it looks like. All right, now I wanted to make sure you guys saw the lace front on this color. So here it is. Again, it's going all the way around your ear tab for the most part. And then I love how on this color, they do bring a little bit of the lighter fiber forward to make the knotting a bit less visible, but they don't bring too much to make it so bright and giving you that like huge rainbow effect across your forehead. They do a good job at scattering the darker colors in there too, which in my opinion, makes it look a little bit more of a natural hairline. And then See how it kind of comes back a little bit? Like it's not full straight across. It comes back a little bit, trying to mimic more of a natural hairline there. Okay, let's take a look at these cluster knots here. So like I mentioned, you're gonna see them a little bit more easily than your typical monofilament top. So really, this is going to be a matter of preference for you on whether or not you're gonna be okay with that. I find that when you're just living your life with your part line open like this, it's not that it's noticeable. I don't believe that people are gonna go around and be like, ah, look at those knots, you're wearing a wig. I find that it's more noticeable when you like aggressively part it open and show the world. But if you're just living your life with, you know, the part line there, it's not as noticeable. But you guys just need to keep in mind that a lot of this is a matter of preference and opinion. I am somebody who doesn't truly care about the cluster knots. I don't think they're that horrendous and that horrible. However, there were people on my previous video who were commenting, being like, no, I would never wear that. I don't like those cluster knots. They're too visible, you know, that kind of thing. So really, all I'm here to be doing is making sure I point out what I see here so that you know it's there. But at the end of the day, you have to make that decision on whether or not you're gonna feel comfortable or not. Some people, the Icons collection is a write-off for them because they're not comfortable with those cluster knots. Other people, they're like, you know what, it's fine, it's not that bad. I like the style enough, the hairline is good enough, the fibers are great, so to me, that works. So again, all this is up to you. I'm just here giving you the information, giving you how I feel about it, and then you can do as you wish. Now, in saying all of this, I just realized I didn't show you the part line and the hairline on this color in particular that I just showed you on Kennedy. So I'm gonna go back to Kennedy, put back on the soft amber brown so that you can see the hairline on this one. And like I mentioned all the time, with these darker fibers, you're gonna see it more clearly. That being said, Belle Tress does a pretty good job at making the knots as fine and small as they can. But here I am up close, showing you that the darker knots are a little more visible, and then the cluster knotting will likely be a little bit more visible as well. So here is that on soft amber brown rooted. Now, if I were to just part this, leave this like this, and walk around my life like this, sorry, this side looks silly. Not as many people are going to be perched on top of your head staring down. You of course have those ladies who are like, well, I'm short, so everybody's staring down at me. So there is that to consider if you are someone who isn't as tall, if you are someone that may have people peering down at you, that might be something to consider as well. Okay, let me take off Kennedy, right? That's what I had on. And we're gonna go on to the next style. And I'll try to remember to show the lace front and the knotting on this one. So I have grabbed Hepburn now. Hepburn is adorable. It does have more of a loose curl pattern going on here. And we have bangs on this one. I shared this one on Instagram and Facebook the other day, and people absolutely loved this one. It's so cute. It has these bangs. Everybody loves a good bang. So let me give you a spin. Now, I find the density on these bangs are just perfect. They are not super, super thick, but they're also not so thin and wispy that they're like barely there. It's a really nice amount of hair. Oh, sorry, I'm getting in my eyes. However, of course, if they're too long for you, they're a little bit too long for me, you can trim them, point cut them, and make them go a little bit shorter if you wanted. But they are long enough if you wanted to part them to the side and integrate them with your hair, you could, or give yourself a little more of a side swept look. They can do that as well. So you can brush them to the side if you prefer that, as opposed to that straight across bang. Now, the rest of this hair here, I would say this is more low to medium density again. There is a little bit more hair here than you would typically see on Belle Tress styles, but also again, with the curl pattern that is there to give you more natural volume. And then like all the other styles, there's no permatease in here. So it's gonna lay pretty flat at your crown. Now, in terms of layering on this, there's not a ton, but there is a little bit starting, you know, a couple inches up higher. Having the bangs here makes this a really beautiful style to put in a half up, half down. So let me do that quickly for you. It's just so cute. The bangs are adorable. And then you could even pull this one completely back into an updo of some sort, either a ponytail, a claw that I'm having a hard time with. But it would look equally as adorable up and off of your face. Don't mind this side. I know, guys, I rush through these styles because I don't want to take up all your time, but you kind of get the idea. Okay, now before I forget, this is in the color French Roast Brown Rooted. It's a nice, deep, rich, chocolatey brown with more of hazelnutty highlights throughout it. If you're a fan of like Mocha Maple Brown from their City collection or something like Shaded Hazelnut, you'd love this color. Shaded Hazelnut by Raquel Welch. Here's your lace front here. So they have brought up both colors here to kind of speckle throughout the lace front. And then you're gonna see these knots a little bit more obviously because we do have darker fibers. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next one, which is, I think, my favorite one. I think it's my favorite of the longer ones anyways. And I really love this color. So we're moving on to Kelly. Look at this beautiful wave pattern. This is like my ideal beachy wave pattern happening. The ends are almost a little bit straighter in a way. Anyways, this is Kelly, and this is in the color Mixed Berry R, which is their only reddish color that they have in this collection. They typically tend to stick to one red color and then do, of course, the rest brunettes or blonde with roots. And they do basically all rooted colors as well. So this is Mixed Berry Rooted. We do have a root here. Let me start off by giving you guys a spin. So Kelly does have these face framing layers in the front, a little bit shorter than my chin. And just like all the other curly or wavy styles, those curls go away from your face to help create that sort of swoopy look in the front with your layering. And overall, this is a little bit more of a layered style. You are gonna have shorter pieces that cascades down into these longer layers here, which helps to make the ends a little bit more lighter weight because you don't have all of that hair down at the bottom. You can see up here, the layers kind of start up here and gradually come down. So again, Kelly's gonna have no permatease in her, and she is more of a lower to medium density, I would say. Let me quickly pull her back, show you guys a little half up, half down situation. Oh gosh, okay. Gonna pull out those front pieces. It's bumpy back there, my apologies. And then I will even put her back into a quick updo. She would also be a great one for a ponytail or a claw clip to pull back. Ooh, there we go. All right, let's take a look at Kelly, or I guess most specifically the color Mixed Berry R and the hairline that it gives you. So again, we do have a sprinkling of the darker and the lighter fibers up at the front. And then this is a rooted color, so you are gonna have the darker knotting in those cluster knots there. Oh, I just love this style. Okay, I realize that the ones I've been showing you so far, they've all been either wavy or curly. So we have two more left here, and they are both straight. So for all you straight folk out there, let's move along to Birkin. I have Birkin here in the color Caramel Toffee Blonde Rooted. Now, Caramel Toffee Blonde Rooted is almost identical to the color Caramel Blonde Rooted from the City collection, but this is Caramel Toffee Blonde Rooted. But they're honestly very, very similar. Okay, so let me get Birkin on. What I haven't mentioned in this video yet is that all of the icons caps are going to fit a little bit smaller than average. I find that this is consistently the smallest cap that they have from all of their collections. So if you are a petite average girl, or even if you are a petite, these are going to fit you a lot better than most. I'm a petite size. These fit me nicely in the circumference. I'm not really going to play around with the adjusters at all because it fits me pretty good with my 20.5 inch circumference. That being said, they are stretchy, so they can stretch, of course, to fit an average. Even an average large should be okay because this is quite a stretchy cap, but it does fit my petite head quite nicely. And even though there is a little bit of bulk in the cap, it doesn't feel too bulky because it is partially hand tied, so it's gonna lay a little bit flatter than if it were a fully wefted cap. All right, here is Birkin. Birkin is straight, straight, straight. Obviously, we do have a little bit of structure around your face here, but the rest of it is very stick straight. And that means this is gonna be a style that is very easy to maintain. All of these wigs from the Icons collection, all the wigs from Belle Tress are made with heat-friendly synthetic fiber. So heat-friendly synthetic fiber, they tend to get frizzy and frazzly really quickly. That doesn't mean it's time for them to go in the garbage. It just means you need to use some heat on them to help the ends stay nice and smooth and straight and not frazzly. So for something like this, you could even take a hair straightener because this is such a straight piece. Take a fine tooth comb, follow it behind with a hair straightener, and that will refresh your fibers. You could even take a blow dryer brush and go through it, and that works really well as well. But this will be really easy to maintain. Let me spin for you, and also know that there's no permatease in here, so it's gonna lay pretty low profile. So like I said, we do have a little bit of structure around the face here, a little bit of layering there that gently cascades down gradually into these longer layers here. The ends are nice and wispy and lightweight. This is a lower density style and it feels really lightweight even though it is a longer piece. Let me just throw this back into a little half up, half down for you. I always like to leave pieces forward just to help disguise that hairline a little bit. But she would work nicely in half up, half down. Okay, so on Caramel Toffee Blonde Rooted, again, we have a little bit of that light fiber coming forward to help make the hairline less visible. So it's a really well done hairline on this color. Comes all the way to your ear tabs. And then again, this has a darker root, so you're gonna have some darker cluster knots happening here. I find this is just an easy everyday style if you are someone who does like the longer styles. You know, it's not too glamorous, it's not too curly, it's not too done up. It's pretty easy to wear as an everyday style. All right, let's move on to the very last style I have here, which is called Katniss. Katniss is gonna be the longest of the Icons collection. I have this here in the color Milkshake Blonde Rooted, which is the exact same color that you'll see in the City collection. Also, that has Milkshake Blonde Rooted. So let me get Katniss on. And I'm gonna start right off with a little spin. So now, depending on the length of your face, of course, the layers are gonna sit just below your chin. I'm about 7.5 inches from my hairline to my chin. So this is where the front layers sit on here. And of course, these layers just kind of gradually go down, down, cascading into the rest of your hair. It's just a really beautiful, lightly structured style. So it's not as stick straight as Birkin was. You're gonna see a little bit of shape flipping out, flipping in, just giving it a little bit more pizzazz. We do have a lighter density though, and of course no permatease, so it's gonna lay pretty low to your head here. Pull this back into a half up, half down, because this one would be really lovely. And again, leaving some fibers out in the front here. So even though the layers in the front are a little bit longer than I'd usually like, I find that they don't look too bad on a half up, half down. It's pretty cute. And in terms of putting this in a claw, I think it might be a little bit floppy in a claw, just because it is a lower density and it's pretty long. However, this would make a great ponytail, you guys. I don't have a scrunchie on me, but let me give you an idea. This would be a really nice ponytail. All right, let's take a peek. The lace front here. Again, scattering some of the light, some of the dark, so it's not such a stark line of the bright blonde in the front. Makes it a little bit more natural in my opinion. And then here is your top. Again, another great style for all of you long-haired lovers out there. All right, you guys, those are the 6 styles that are the longer ones of the Icons collection. And if I were to summarize all of this into like a quick Cole's Notes version, I think the most important things to know are that they're made with really nice, soft, heat-friendly fibers. They have a partially hand-tied cap that fits smaller than average. However, it is stretchy enough to fit average, even potentially average large. But if you're going like 22.5, 23 inch circumference, I don't think this will work well for you. They have beautiful lace fronts on all of the colors, I find. They are a comfortable cap. But the biggest thing for you guys to consider, I think, are the cluster knots on the top of the hand-tied top, not a monofilament top. So overall, you guys just need to decide whether or not something like this is going to bother you, or if you can, you know, be okay with that. For me, I'm far enough along in my journey that those knots don't bother me. That doesn't bother me near as much as a bad hairline would bother me. That would throw me off. But these have really great hairlines. And I think the main reasons why the Icons collection so far is my favorite isn't because of the cluster knotting, like that's low on the list for me, but I think it's because literally all of the styles in this collection I like. And also for me personally, this is a cap that fits me much better than all of their other ones. So for me, the Icons collection is a win. For you, I don't know, that's for you to decide. But thank you guys for being here. Hopefully this video, along with my previous one on the 6 shorter styles, kind of gave you an idea of what is out there and helped you pick one, if you so choose, to help you along in your wig journey. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye everybody.